It's an exciting thought just because all my friends are in St. George.
Polygamy got too criminal, and I wonder why we're still here. We can move back home. I want to move back.
I'm in a place where I feel like my kids love it here. This is the most likely place for any of our kids to move back, our adult kids.
I'm surprised because I thought Cody was more in favor of this. But he's acting like we've never even talked about this and that he wasn't in favor of it last time we talked.
Hey everyone, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a wonderful day. It's Thursday, April 14th, and yesterday we talked about how Cody Brown's nephew came out and said that Sister Wives shouldn't be on the air because it's glorifying the world of polygamy. And he said that he doesn't watch the show because the show is edited and curated in a way that's not his family. And he doesn't think that the world of polygamy should be glorified, justified, or shown in a way in which it has been on TLC.
I don't think polygamy should be glorified or justified. I don't think polygamy is a healthy lifestyle for families.
He made a lot of very good points, and I think points were made and understood, and a lot of you had great things to say about that video. Paedon Brown recently did a TikTok where he actually shared that being on television saved his siblings from a life of polygamy and oppression. Now, before we even get into the TikTok stuff about what Paedon said, I was thinking about the whole Utah lawsuit that Cody has used for years to claim is the reason why moving back to Utah is not safe for them. Well, today I was like, okay,
4 months ago we went public, and through the paper we learned that the Lehigh City Police were doing an investigation on our family.
Well, then recently we just found out that the investigation's over, but they've turned it over to the county.
And we have seriously considered, after a lot of talk, of moving out of state.
Paedon had mentioned on a podcast that there's certain things that have happened in their lives that are really amplified and created to be a bigger deal than they actually are. Kristen Decker, Christine's aunt and cousin, had told me that there was never any credible proof or even threat that the Brown family would have ever been prosecuted for polygamy by the state of Utah. That the whole we need to move and get out of Utah and move to Nevada was a way to get attention, create drama for the show, for ratings, and that the Browns might have actually been considering moving before that even went to place. Going public did put them under investigation by the city of Lehigh in Utah, but as a practice, the Attorney General in the state of Utah does not prosecute people for polygamy unless there are other crimes associated with it, like fraud or other aspects that are tied to it. So even though Lehigh did an investigation due to the publicness of it, they gave it to the prosecuting attorney and even to the state attorney, and they never prosecuted them. There was never any reasonable conclusion that they would have been charged with anything because they hadn't found any other crimes, and they don't as a whole prosecute polygamy in the state of Utah, just polygamy alone.
Why our family fights a lot is because no one likes Vegas.
We were basically chased out of Utah. We had to move somewhere where we don't know anyone. We didn't know anyone. We don't have any family here. We don't have anything.
So Cody's lawsuit with the state of Utah originally went in his favor, but then it was overturned when it went to a higher appeals court, which basically said that the state of Utah does not prosecute polygamists for simply polygamy, and therefore there was no valid actual threat of the Browns going to prison or having any charges against them. So Cody still uses this as like I can't go back to Utah because Utah hates me. Plenty of people sue the states that they live in, and they don't leave the state saying that the state's going to come after them. To me, it just has always come off that Cody's more paranoid or using it to drum up drama for the show. So Now, consider this. After they moved to Utah, they went to the state of Nevada, which opened their lives up to an entirely different life. Before then, they had never lived outside the state of Utah. The kids grew up in a polygamous world. They went to school with other polygamists. They were well active in their church, and they were very much like that was their life. Like they lived in a polygamous community. Like that's what they did. When they moved to Nevada and they got into Las Vegas, they moved away from their polygamous community, and they really left that world, and they entered the secular world. The kids went into public schools, and the family was sort of excommunicated from the AUB. When they were kicked out of the AUB, and now this is another debatable component, because were they disassociated from the AUB? Yes, but they're still, like, Robin still calls it their church. So again, it's I guess it depends on who you're asking. And Cody's friend Kyle, who is a bishop for the AUB, was on the show a couple years ago. So that tells me that they still have some, they're not in total they're not in bad standing. Now, Christine said she left the church, and Cody said Christine left the church, but I don't think Cody's left the church. But Paedon says that they were excommunicated. So he actually says that leaving the state of Utah and the show saved his siblings and himself from a lifetime of oppression under the world of polygamy. So the Ashley Reality Roundup actually caught some of the TikTok that he did on his live, and unfortunately I can't find any video of this, but this is what he said. Knowing exactly what my life would have been without sister wives, I'd have one wife, I'd probably be courting a second wife, and I'd probably have 3 kids by now, maybe just 2, and I'd be going to church every single day. I'd be miserable, honestly. And he also mentioned that moving probably wouldn't have happened without the show. He said we probably wouldn't have left the cities without sister wives. He stated that he also talked about Mariah, who came out as a lesbian a couple years ago, and that probably would have been completely different had they not been on the show and had they not left the church. He said simply being a lesbian woman, she would be hated in the religious community we had been a part of. So most of us would probably have shunned her if we had stayed in said community. Thanks to Sister Wives, we got out of said community and our worlds opened up a lot. Mariah would have been shunned for simply being born the way she was born. So one of the things that a lot of people have talked about is the children have all made the decision that they were not going to be polygamists. During the early seasons, Mariah said that she was going to be a polygamist. She wanted to be a plural wife. Obviously, we know now that's not going to happen. She is engaged to Audrey. All of the other siblings at the time didn't want to be in polygamy, even in the early seasons. And they even had disagreements about whether or not they were going to stay as fundamentalist polygamists. There was an argument between Maddie and Robin about, choosing her own religion. And Maddie said that she didn't want to be a polygamist. She didn't want to be a part of that religion as she got older. And now, if you look at the life that the kids lead, none of them have opted to be polygamists. They have all opted to be not. They're monogamists. None of them are involved in the church, and they are not underneath that umbrella of oppressiveness under polygamy. Now, there's kids still that are minors, but now that it was just Truly's 12th birthday, so happy birthday, Truly. She is now living outside the world of polygamy because her mom has left her father, and she's living in the monogamous world now. She's not raised in the church. She's not part of that church anymore. So her life is going to be even more different than her siblings, who's always were sort of wrapped into that polygamous world. She'll have life of the polygamy when she's with her family, but then she's going to have life after polygamy with her mom. So it'll be interesting to see how Truly ends up being a little bit different than her siblings. Her older sisters are also very outspoken, and Gwendolyn also came out as bisexual, and she has a girlfriend, and even her coming out was nothing really was made to do about it. It was just like this acceptance by everyone. She didn't have to formally come out. She never did a presentation on the show where she said like, "Mom, I'm bisexual," or anything like that. Christine has a pride flag that she would fly at her house. She obviously supports Gwendolyn no matter what Gwendolyn does and no matter who Gwendolyn loves. So the family also seemed to evolve once the show started, which for a lot of people was like, well, they're not really a part of the church anymore. They're not even really polygamists. Like, what are they doing? Like, they've gotten away from their church. They've gotten away from their belief system. What is it that they're even doing anymore? Like, are they just doing this for the sake of doing this? Do they still believe in this? Like, what's going on here, right? Well, the kids have all made their decision. Thank goodness the show came along, because they're not polygamous, because they don't have to be polygamous. They went to public high school. They were able to have secular friends. They were exposed to secular music. They were so exposed to outside influences outside of the polygamous circles. They were not forced into marriages and having to take multiple wives. They've been able to carve out their own lives for themselves. So yes, the show has been good for the kids in the event that they've left the world of polygamy, in that they don't have to be polygamists the way that they would have had they stayed in hiding or stayed sort of hidden from the world. I like that development. I'm still waiting to find out if they were ever paid, though. Like, I still have this like weird sense that they didn't get paid for their time on air. I actually reached out to Paedon. He has not responded for a comment to see if they were paid for his time, or if he was paid for his time on Sister Wives. That would be one thing I would love to know. Another thing I wanted to know is, for the Duggars, did Derek and Jill file a wage claim against her dad in the state of Arkansas? Did you know you can do that? Like, if you have an employer and you weren't paid, you can actually file a wage claim, because under like state law, you are supposed to get paid a minimum wage. Which is why when Derek said like they got basically paid a minimum wage under the law, I was like, did they do a wage claim? I haven't heard back from Derek on that question either. All right, you guys, are you surprised with what you've heard? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Bye, guys.